Da 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 da. What's my good cheer? Welcome, everybody. Let's give YouTube a couple minutes, get those notifications out, let people know I've gone live. And in the meantime, if you've never met me before, hi, I'm Cindy. I explore the inside and the outside, right? Somebody's got to do it. Actually, there are so many. I don't know why I said that, but you know what? There are so many amazing people out there delving deep, delving into that inside, and actually coming up with some viable solutions to make a little bit of movement, not just for themselves, right? Because it is in the foremost for ourselves, but they share what they learn, right? It's how I move along in that little drummer girl kind of idea that we all think that we don't have something to contribute, but sometimes just contributing in our own experience can be the example for somebody else. And that is so much the truth. Lots of times, uh, we find that we don't want to step out of ourselves because we don't want to draw attention to ourselves. Lots of times, you see those commercials or those ads and stuff or posts where people are walking down the sidewalk and somebody is actually hurting or in trouble or something, and people panic in those moments and they just walk by, and then they're made, sometimes if it's caught on video, they're made to look like they're the bad guy. But it's in taking care of ourselves and understanding and trusting that in a moment we don't have all those answers, that we are only human. And if we can just think to ourselves, if that was us, how would we like others to react? Right? Sometimes that helps us a little bit to drum up the courage. Lots of times it's in that stupidity instant moment, right? You hear, help me in the river, and you're on the bridge and you're not even thinking, you're like 50 feet up and you just don't even think. It's so instinctual that you just get on the side and you just jump over, right? At that point, I say, wow, right? Grace is going to be with you or not, right? But we think in these moments instantly sometimes. And then sometimes we overthink in the moment. And sometimes we let our fears and uncertainties just make it so we don't see it at all when we perfectly well do see it. But that is again not to put blame anywhere. It's just to show you where you're at in that moment, right? Because the idea is to do unto others as you would have them do unto you. So it's something that you should recognize. If you're not able to stop, you're not able to say stop it, or just jump in and start pounding on somebody in order to get them off of somebody else. That there is going to come a time in humanity's existence that we're going to get to that state, and not the state that we would jump in and help somebody without even thinking, like that person jumping off the bridge without even thinking, risking their own life. But we won't need to, because these experiences will be oddities. They will be right there. They're not as common, right? Now you don't hear these constantly, but there were times when, right, it was quite common that when you were sad or depressed and you just couldn't take it anymore, right? That people would just give up on themselves. And we're getting to that state where there are solutions, and it's because great people are out there looking for those solutions that are delving deep and using their own experiences to help somebody else better understand their own experience. Lots of people out there don't like to ask for help, but it's amazing. We live in a digital age now where you have Chat GPT and you have Gemini, and right, you have resources out there like YouTube and Wikipedia, the internet in general. This age of AI learning has offered up opportunities for us to make great strides individually and as a community. I'm going like this because I'm optimistic when I say community. I'm saying the world, right? That it is going to make things easier for us moving forward. And, it is scary. It is scary. But, it's that understanding that sometimes we have to overcome our apprehensiveness, right? That nervousness, and understand again, these are human traits. But if you mix it, right, with a little smarts, with some conversations, some understanding, a little bit of research, right? You might find that you stumble onto some really amazing things that can also be the evidence for others that it can be done, right? We live in a digital age where it's so easy for us to learn. I was on my phone. I write a little bit of Google Pixel maintenance day, I called it. But also, it's for me to get better acquainted with technology, just because I've got great apps that I picked up 5 or 6 years ago. Do you not think that there are even more amazing apps and extensions and programs out there that we should never just stop? We should always, right? Looking to do a little bit better. And not my favorite thing to do. I'm not technically inclined, but oh boy, was I happy when I cleaned up my phone and got rid of some programs that I wasn't using, able to put some security measures on. So if I do lose my phone, right, good chance maybe I'll get the phone back. And it's important to take care of these small details in our lives. But just like me coming in and just sharing it just now, somebody else must just said, oh my goodness, I need to go into my phone too. I got so much garbage and downloads and pictures and files and things that need to be deleted, and right? And then you go in and take a look and you go, "Oh my goodness. I found a good one yesterday. It was an extension for turning up the volume." Right? I have Bose speakers for my computer, but I can't use them because I've got a pirated Windows program on this new computer I got. Right? There would have been something for $50, right? It was just too good of a deal. But I think it's still a good deal because the computer is working very, very well. And I'm adjusting to not having my Bose speakers in the moment. But in order for me to learn these things and get in there and see if I can do a little bit better for myself, I stumbled on to a little extension that could work a little bit with the sound on my new computer, right? The bass, the voice a little bit, had some defaults, was able to expand the volume by 600%, like a little cool little extension. And in the moment, it's not costing me anything. And it makes me feel better about the purchase I made. I'm back up and running. That's what makes me happy. Just to stay on top of that pile. Sometimes we can't get 3 strides ahead, but if we could just stay afloat sometimes, it's in that maintenance, right? That we can avoid having to get repairs and dish out the big funds, right? And I did okay by myself. I'm not technically inclined, but I am the queen of beaters, and I've learned a little bit about cars, but I was the queen of beaters. I've learned a lot about computers because you're illiterate, and in playing with computers you make mistakes. You have to figure out things and devices and cords and programs, and right, and it can be a little bit overwhelming in that. But when you get it figured out, oh my goodness, what an amazing, amazing field. My phone screens look amazing, right? If I lose my phone, there's a chance I might get it back. And, my phones aren't cheap, right? I'm a Google girl. And it's not like the pixels are like outrageously over expensive, but they're not inexpensive either. And I'm not in a position to buy a new phone every single year. I have been privileged to have a few of the pixels now, and yeah, it serves me great. I even have the Pixel 2 still. I use that one as a spare camera. That Pixel 2 I have has the exact same battery in it as when I got the phone. It was my main camera when I was a YouTuber, urban exploring abandoned farms and schoolhouses and churches, and it served me really, really well. But when I go on my trips, I'm out in the bush. I don't have anywheres besides a vehicle to charge my devices on. And so lots of times I keep a spare, right? My Pixel 2. It's got to be, oh my goodness, it's got to be over 10 years old now for sure. And I use it all the time. Great storage, amazing camera, even way back then. I don't know when the Pixel 2 came out. I should ask. Hey, Google, what year did the Pixel 2 come out?
The Google Pixel 2 was released in 2017. It was officially announced on October 4th and launched in the United States.
Wow, 2017. So that camera is, oh my goodness, it's 9 years old now. 9 years old, and it works just as good as it ever did. It's not my main phone. I have my main phone. I'm a little bit of an it girl, and I was doing okay financially with that job that I had. And at that point, maybe I was didn't need the phone, but I was able to purchase one. So I did. I'm not complaining, but it just means that I'll hold on to it for a little bit longer, right? I don't know. Maybe we'll get the new one. That Pixel 10 is out already, and by the time I get the new one, and this one here is a Pixel 8, right? So I didn't even make it to the Pixel 9. So I'm going to have to go right into the Pixel 10. Yeah. Anyway, that's all I wanted to say in that. Yeah, just to be proud that I got a little bit of this learning done, because I did learn a little bit, and I was able to, right, make things set up just a little bit better for me. And it makes it so I don't feel so much like I'm falling behind, right? I'm 64 years old. I'm not technically inclined. I can do some Googling, and that's like kind of what I was going to talk about when I came in today, was that Googling that I do, that how there is so much out there that we don't understand, that we don't even know is a possibility of existence, that it's even a thought. And I come across these, right, not regularly, but all the time, almost daily. It blows me away sometimes in some of the discoveries, and like the discoveries of our own being, right, as homo sapiens, like to be able to just pick up DNA out of dirt now, and to see an entire environment that existed a million years ago, possibly. Well, maybe not a million years. DNA doesn't last that long, but they're right all through the ice ages. They're an individual too, like a cup of dirt, and you're going to maybe get 20 or 30 animals and insects and stages of evolution through the dirt layers, like so much information, and it's all dug up through the intelligence that we don't have, right? We did not, well, we all, everything is evolving, everything is, but we're not evolving like AI is evolving, right? We are not going to be on top of the pile. I don't even think we're on top of the pile in the moment. And maybe possibly we might not ever be again, right? Because how do you compete with that kind of intelligence, right? And it's gonna, I do a little bit of dabbling into different subjects and stuff, and one of those is in the idea that we're all at one point going to have to get a paycheck, right? A global wage. It's just you could see it. It's just obvious in the future. But the scary thing about that is if everybody has money to make choices out of, there's going to be restrictiveness. Fire station. Get to your door, knock on it, be a false alarm, turn around, go right back to the station. They're right outside my building today, so I guess it's somebody in my building. Um, what was I going to say there? Yeah, so the universal wage is something that will at some point come into effect. It will have to, and households will be managing on that, just because technology is going to evolve so fast that there's going to be more people than work, and so either some people are going to get extra money for working, or no money at all, and how fair is that? Because everybody wants to work, but if there's not enough work to go around, then what are you going to do? You have no choice but to support those who aren't going to work. So universal wage will most definitely come into effect, but how will we be inspired to move forward if our needs are being taken care of? Right? I grew up as scapegoat in my family. I come from a very dynamic family. That was my role. I accept that that's where I was. I don't accept that that's where I am in this moment. But there were experiences and lessons in that life that I grew up in, and I am guilty of being beneficiary of having my basic needs taken care of. But there was a cost in that, right? There was a terrible cost in that. But I did have meals. I had a roof, a roof over my head, right? And those worries that I had, they kept me weak because it made me so I didn't search out, right? The experience myself. I allowed things to be taken care of. I allowed my needs to be taken care of so I didn't have to. And I'm grateful I was able to find things, because that's all I wanted was my freedom to go off and have my own adventures, and I just couldn't afford to do that, right? But like I said, having my needs met came at a cost. It came at those binding relationships, within the family, the responsibilities and the unspoken contracts in that, and the pain, and a lot of pain. And then on top of that, the realizations decades later, that possibly, right, as much as I loved, I might not have been as cared for as I thought I was, right? Because you live in a world that is self serving, and a lot of that is, giving to get, or giving to feel stronger or more important than others. And yeah, so we really have to be careful when it comes to universal wage. Like, we need to be inspired, we need to have projects and a life and hobbies and charitable, right? But then charity wouldn't even be a needed aspect anymore because of that universal wage. Well, no, that's not true, because universal wage won't resolve the issues of addictions, which always cause problems within communities and within families too. So, right, but we're going to have to start stepping our foot in there and experimenting a little bit. I would say, look at some of the reservations in Canada, with some of the legal actions, and some of that, you know righting our wrongs. It has made some of these reservations extremely abundant, extremely well to do. There's a lot of land, a lot of resources, and so you want to take a look at the examples in the world to see how well we would adjust, right, as a community. Hello, Eugene. I know you're there, dear. Thank you so much. Thank you so much for coming in. Thank you so much for the thumbs up. I really appreciate that. And they're struggling. You should see these beautiful, brand new houses, and they're in just horrible shape, right? There's no infrastructure, the education system, the dreams of the children. Suicide is such an issue in the northern communities, right? And again, you can attribute a lot of that to, the age of AI learning, because they're on their phones. They can see the other side of the world. They can see another existence that's not part of their existence, right? And sometimes that can make you bitter and resentful. Sometimes that can make you feel hopelessness, right? But I guess, for me, it was kind of in that determination. Fine, I don't have those resources, right? I won't be invited to that party. But despite that, right, I'll have my own adventures. Despite that, I'll be my own best friend. And, we can find things to make ourselves feel better, right? Because lots of us, we get ourselves into that state. And once you're in that state, right, it's hard to come out of it. Even within my own family, there's been some serious operations and stuff. I mean, you can't go through those kind of life-changing emotionally and mentally, even not even to think physically, right? To come through those experiences and not be changed by that, right? And they do say, I've done some research on it, that depression is huge, and so we have to pay extra attention in that. Okay, I've gotten a little bit far off the side branch there, so the main trunk of the tree. If you don't know, I do go down a lot of side branches in those conversations. I don't even remember why I brought up universal wage, right? Because it hasn't been a part of the topic of conversation in content or anything that I've come across as of late anyway. But it is that indication, oh, it was AI, right? That how it's evolving so fast that it's going to come to a point where we're not going to be able to compete with it, right? And so it's about starting to look for solutions now. That's what evolution is, right? It's just a little bit of anticipation of what the next moment is going to be, and looking for the solutions for that, right? So eager to find the solutions for the problems we have right now. But wouldn't it be amazing if we can kind of find those solutions even before they happened? Okay, you guys, let's get into a card. If you don't know 54 powerful words, we just pull a card. I go into it for a couple of minutes and we say our goodnights, and I go back to my cup of coffee. I just made it so it's hot. Go into it for a few minutes and then we're going to call it a night, right? Start it all over again tomorrow. Okay. Take the back one. Okay. It's the first thing that came to my mind, you guys. And the first thing that came to my mind was, this is the word, and I'll tell you the thing that came to my mind. Effort. Where there is no effort, there is no gain. The first thing that came to my mind when I pulled this card and I saw the word effort, I said, Cindy, you haven't put too much effort into the week yet, and it's already it's already going into the middle of the week, and I don't feel that I put much effort in. And actually there was a word that popped up too, and that word was lazy, right? And I feel that slowness, that stoppage, that slow motion, that lack of motivation. And I'm not somebody who's normally like that, right? And even saying that right now, I could, right? I'm doing things constantly. Like I said, I'm I'm doing stuff, but I don't want to be just doing stuff for the fake or the sake of doing stuff. And that's why I have that moment of guilt, right? Because I do feel like in the moment I'm kind of in a standstill, that I don't feel that momentum and movement. And why should I? We're in the middle of winter, right? We adjust, we like the seasons, we take care of things. It's like in the fall you do the canning, right? And in the winter you're mending the socks, and in the spring you're planting the seeds, and in the summer, right, you're harvesting. I could just laugh at myself sometimes, right? effort. Effort where there is no effort, there is no gain. That's a reminder for myself too. I'm a big believer in baby steps. The sometimes in the baby steps we're not getting smacked with the speed and the urgency in things. And it's so much nicer when we can learn in our own comforts, in our own lazy, right? In our lazy, comfortable, right? Because nobody likes a hairy, scary. But the thing is, remember what I was saying uh, yesterday or past couple of days we were talking. We were talking about it, right? That guilt and shame sometimes that quite surfaces when we feel that we should be doing right, because that's that self-parenting. We don't want to give ourselves poop, but we want to bring it to our attentions that right we could be better, doing better by ourselves, like we were talking about Cindy when she could have gone for a walk. It was yesterday that she could have gone for a walk yesterday, but she chose not to. That it is in our choices ultimately whether or not we get our butts off the couch and get into the gear, right? Because if we need to accomplish, if we need to get things done, then that's our responsibility to make that movement to get these things done. Otherwise, right, I will end up with 100 apps on my phone, right? Needing one in the moment and just taking too long to get to them. And why am I not having my favorite extensions and apps all on the same page? Why are they just all over the place where I do have to go search for them, right? So it's just taking care of those small details when we do it in baby steps, because in the end I still got it done, didn't I? I learned a little bit about technology. I got a little bit more volume in my sound in my computer. I learned a little bit about that at the same time, right? Quite content that I kept to my word in those small little things that I knew that I could do, right? I could have easily said, forget this, right? I'm not going to be able to get anything. This computer works 100 times better than the one that I had. I'm in a much better place right now with this setup, right? It cost me $50. It ties me over, right? So I'm okay with that. And I call that a chalk. I call that a little bit of movement because it is much better than it was, right? And I've only had it for a couple of days and I'm getting just really comfortable with it already. Okay, you guys, I'm exhausted. I didn't offer you too much today except my company, but sometimes that's all you need, right? Sometimes that's all I need is in my own company. So I'm going to take that into consideration when we look at this word effort, which was the word tonight, that, sometimes in just keeping company with myself, I have to recognize that that's what I need in the moment. And the movement I make when I keep company just with myself, right? It's a whole lot more when I am surrounded in the busy of, right, the community. Community, I was going to say society, right? I just feel like I've been a little bit of a hermit. And I think probably that's why when this word came up, effort tonight, the first thing that came to my mind was, Cindy, you're not getting enough done. But I also recognize, right, there is no movement without that actual physicality of getting to work, accomplishing it, right? Lots of people, they cling to hope, right? And they'll sit there on their haunches and just help me, and just hope somebody is going to walk by them when they're on the sidewalk, right? But in a lot of moments, we have to understand that not everybody has the capacity to stop and give you a little bit of good cheer, right? A little bit of an ear, a little bit of a shoulder to cry on, or a few quarters from their pocket. Okay, you guys, that's my good cheer. Have a great night.